Hey, look at that. So where we see the helicopter just in front of us, that is Honopu Valley. There are 2 beaches below Honopu. That ridge line that extends out into the water has actually got an arch underneath it that connects the two. This section directly in front of us, we call the Cathedrals, named for their towering spires and razorback ridges. And that stands as a backdrop to the Kalalau Beach. Now, Kalalau Beach is the endpoint for the Nepali Coast Trail, which extends 11 miles from Ke'e, the flat point we can see at our far left, along the coastline, winding up at Kalalau Beach. We're going to continue along the coastline here.
Believe this is amazing.
It really is. And today is like pure gold. It does not look like this a lot of the winter time. So we're lucking out today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gosh. Oh.
Now, just down on our left side, you can actually see bits of the Nepali Coastline Trail. It's razor thin, but it's working its way just along the cliffs here. Now, every year, almost 750,000 people will hike some portion of the Nepali Coast Trail. And for the vast majority of those people, Hanalei is going to be their destination. So this is Honopu Valley, and then just on the other side of this shaded ridgeline here is going to be Hanalei. So from Ke'e Beach along the trail, it'll be 2 miles to get from Ke'e to the beach at Hanalei, and then an additional 2 miles upstream will get you to the Hanalei Falls. So no permits are required for this section of the hike other than a parking pass at Ke'e if you decide to park out there. There are shuttles that can get you out there. But very, very popular hike. Now, the stream at Hanalei is somewhat prone to flooding, so it is important to check forecasts, especially this time of year. So Hanalei Falls is going to be just off to our right here, and then down on our left, Hanalei Beach. Now we'll come around and fly out over the beach. So that waterfall, you'll notice that it is 11:30 and it is sitting in the shade. It's going to continue to sit in the shade all day. The water in that waterfall is flowing out from the Alakai Swamp at 4,000 feet elevation and flows through a very, very narrow set of valleys along its way downstream, and then it flows out of that waterfall in the shade. So that water is frigid, stays cold. Middle of summer, it's cold, but at the end of a 4-mile hike up to it, it feels pretty good, at least for a minute, and then you get out. So down below us, we've got the beach.
Whales? No, those are people. What are
I think those are boats. No, I think those are boats. Yeah, I think those are all boats. This brings us to the end of the Nepali coast and the beginning of the North Shore. Yeah, it's pretty good ways up here on the North Shore today. Now, just over on our right side is the Bali High ridgeline, and just on the other side of that is Limuhuli Valley. So Limuhuli Valley is home to the Limuhuli Gardens. Limuhuli Gardens is one of a series of gardens called the National Tropical Botanical Gardens. This garden and then Allerton Gardens down on the south side, or McBride Gardens, they're kind of one and the same, are two of those gardens. Now, this garden is really focused on native and endemic plant species, and this whole valley off on our right is the garden. So Upper Limuhuli is a preserved native Hawaiian forest. Lower Limuhuli is actually open to the public. If you're up here on the North Shore, I'd highly recommend coming in and checking them out.
Even at this time of year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Now, down below us on our right, where we see the lines of parked cars there, that's Hyena Beach Park. And that's where the wet and dry caves are. And then directly below us is Tunnels. Now, Tunnels Beach is named for the network of arches, caves, caverns, and tunnels in the reef structure below the surface. Now, during the wintertime, that's a pretty popular surf spot, but it's during the summer when you can really see where it got its name.
Look at that right there.
From by diving through it. So incredible dive spot. Now this brings us to Hyena. Now I've been saving my tips to buy a place here for a while, but I'm fairly certain I'm going to be saving for the rest of my life, as these are some of the highest real estate prices in the entire U.S. Used to be very local area. Today, folks like Pierce Brosnan and Alanis Morissette have homes up here. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So we can now see the double bridges of Wainiha. Wainiha Valley heading upstream, and then Limuhuli Valley, this very large valley. Now directly in front of us we've got Hanalei Bay. Up on the hillside to our left would be Princeville, and then looking out beyond Princeville we can see Kilauea, and specifically the Kilauea Lighthouse.
Oh yeah.
Kilauea Lighthouse marks the northernmost point in the entire state of Hawaii. It is a historic landmark, as the lighthouse itself was built in 1913. It was renovated in 2013, and it is beautiful. They do normally offer tours a couple times a week. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing right now. But it's also a wildlife refuge, a bird sanctuary for seabirds coming in off the ocean to nest and raise their young. Through the summer months, it gets crazy out there. Thousands of seabirds flying around the cliff walls out there. It's pretty cool. Down below us on our left, we've got Hanalei Town, right? So Hanalei, awesome walkable little town. You can park and explore the main strip, which we can kind of see from here. Depending on which side of the strip you're on, you'll be between 2 and 4 blocks from the ocean. So you can grab a plate lunch or some snacks and walk right down to the beach. The beach itself, all along the bay, offers everything from snorkeling to surfing, skimboarding, body surfing, sunbathing, a nice walk along the beach. Whatever you want to do, you can do it down in Hanalei. And actually the pier just opposite of us has a pavilion out at the end of it that has some picnic benches there. Great place to have lunch. Or you can even jump off the pier if you want. There will be kids out there doing it all day long, every day. Pretty fun spot to swim. You can, of course, join them. So throughout Hanalei Town, we can see all these square and rectangular paddies or crops. So those are all taro fields, or lo'i. And throughout the state of Hawaii, about 95% of all of the taro that is consumed within the state is grown down here in Hanalei. Okay, so we're coming up to Namolokama. So this large mountain here is the main mountain backdrop to Hanalei. The top of this mountain stands at just over 4,000 feet in elevation, and the top of it is actually flat. It supports a marshy bog up at the top of it, which is all slightly tilted in the direction of Hanalei Town. And that feeds a single waterfall down its face all year long. This is called Waioli. One cool thing about Namolokama and Waioli is we can see these notches in the face of it. And these notches have been carved out by the streams, the waterfalls themselves over the years, creating what are called hanging valleys. So suspended above the actual valley floor are these isolated little valleys in and of themselves. So these little microcosms are very out of the way. So if you don't have wings or are floating on the water flowing through it, you're not going to see it. So we're very lucky in that we can sneak peeks of the hanging valleys of Waioli.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Wow.
that cool? Okay, so as we cross over this next ridge here, we're moving into the Hanalei River Valley. So pretty much everything we're going to be seeing moving inland from here is part of the Hanalei Forest Reserve. So the Hanalei Forest Reserve is all state-owned land. It's all protected land. And the river flowing down below us is the Hanalei River. Now it is fed by Mount Waialae Ali, as well as Namolokamo off to our right and Makaleha on our left. All three of these mountains get a tremendous amount of rain every winter, and that makes this river fairly susceptible to flooding. When this river floods, access to Hanalei and the rest of the North Shore beyond will be cut off for some period of time. So to get into Hanalei, you need to go over a little one-lane bridge that comes just after you come out of Princeville. And just past that bridge are some very low-lying areas, and those are the areas that physically flood. Typically, the water will recede within about 24 to 48 hours. There's usually pretty good advanced warning that it's going to happen. And so it's kind of a normal part of life for the folks that live up on the North Shore. For the kids that live on the North Shore, it's kind of like a Hawaiian snow day for them. And no school for a day or two.
Yep. Oh, it is.
Now, as we continue upstream here, we're getting closer and closer to Mount Waialae Ali. So Waialae Ali is home to the crater left behind from the main caldera that formed the island. The main volcano that formed the island of Kauai. The tops of the crater of Waialae Ali are home to the two tallest points on the island of Kauai. So the southern peak is Kauai Kini, and Kauai Kini stands at 5,243 feet in elevation, making it the highest point on the island of Kauai. The northern peak is Waialae Ali, and it is just shy of 100 feet shorter than Kauai Kini, so it's 5,148 feet in elevation. Within the crater is home to one of the wettest spots on Earth. It sees 451 inches of rain on average every year. That's 39.5 feet of rain that this area sees every year on average.
Wow.
Now, Kauai itself holds the Guinness Book of World Records for most rain accumulation in a 24-hour period. Back in 2019, we saw 49.5 inches of rain in just 24 hours. So we're called the Garden Island for nothing. Yeah, we got a lot of rain here. Now, as we cross over this next ridge, we're going to be back onto the east side of the island. Out ahead of us, we can see Hauppa Ridge. And just before we head back to the airport, we're going to head around the corner to check out the crater itself.
Oh, that's great. Oh.
What a day. It is
Isn't
gorgeous.
it gorgeous?
Yeah, it sure is.
We're going to expect this every time.
Yeah. All right, so as we come around the bend here, already we can see Waialae Ali crater. So that far wall that we're looking at is just over 3,000 feet tall. So the base of the crater is just at 2,000 feet above sea level. That upper rim is over 5,000 feet in elevation and butts itself again right up to that Alakai swamp. So at the top of it, it's more or less flat, transitions all the way back down to the Waimea Canyon on the opposite end of the island. For a long time, most of history, this wall was actually closed in. It was a complete cylinder. Now, at some point in the very distant past, this eastern wall caved in on itself, and that set up a perfect entry for us helicopters and set a trap for clouds. So if you remember early in the tour, I mentioned that our prevailing weather patterns move from east to west. So that sort of western march of the clouds sets up this trap where unwitting clouds